Hey everyone! Finally got around to the best sorcerer build for clearing all content in the 10th season of Diablo 4. This is a Chain Lightning build that kills everything in a 2-screen radius in all directions. This sorcerer setup not only effortlessly clears all mid and late game content, but also completely ignores mobs in tier 70 to 75 pit runs, meaning it clears this level as if the map were empty in about 50 to 60 seconds. It also crushes uber bosses like nuts. It's very convenient for clearing all locations. You can see for yourself on the screen how and at what distance mobs marked on the minimap are dying. A Hydra build or Lightning Spear build can boast clearing an entire location of infernal hordes while the hero stands in the center. But this build can kill everything much further away, because Chain Lightning easily hits mobs from very far. And you can stand significantly above the center, while mobs at the bottom and right at the maximum distance will die, which is visible by the appearing ether. Even from the very top, Chain Lightning can blast through the entire location. Please keep in mind, I'm not claiming this is the best sorcerer build in Diablo 4, but I am claiming that this is the fastest build in Season 10 for farming absolutely everything on Torment 4 and above, up to the Pit 75. The channel has a guide for the starter build of this sorceress, link in the description. And to preempt any questions you might have, I'll say right away that the next guide will be a Sorceress Hydra build, on which I run the Pit 100 never longer than 3 minutes under any circumstances. There's a record of 2:02 on the ladder. Also, with the powerful version of this Hydra build, I have currently cleared the Pit 120. I also want to say that this season I have not played and will not play Ball Lightning, because everyone is already playing it. And there are plenty of guides for Ball Lightning. So new off here, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's it for the intro. Let's go. First, which buttons to press and how. Our main damage dealing skill is Chain Lightning. This button is simply held down all the time. Got it? Hold down Chain Lightning and keep it held. Unstable currents, like ice blades, we press on cooldown. As soon as the skill is ready, we press it. There can be a maximum of 6 familiars, so we click them until we have 6, and then just press it occasionally to maintain 6 active ones. The next skill is Frostbolt. We need it for the seasonal power explosive combinations to work, meaning we need to press this skill 3 times in a row when entering a location. And after that, just press it sometimes, but no less than once every 5 seconds. Note that this attack does not have to hit anyone to activate this seasonal power. And the last skill on the bar is Fireball. This skill activates the fire buff from Tal Rasha's ring, plus it instantly executes enemies with less than 20% health. Note that on T4 I don't use it because there's no need. Everything dies instantly anyway. And these 20% from Tal Rasha's ring activate on Uber bosses and in pits 70+. Second, skills and how they work. Frostbolt. As mentioned above, it activates the seasonal power and helps us have the buff from Hoarfrost more often. Putting 2 points here, we can move lower. In the core skills category, we take Fireball with these enhancement nodes, 1 point in each. We set enemies on fire, getting the buff from Tal Rasha's ring, and finish off enemies with less than 20% health. Chain Lightning is our main and only damage dealing skill. There are no other damaging skills in the build, just like in any other build. This is the mechanics of the whole Diablo 4. One skill deals damage, others buff the damage or provide defense, cooldown reduction, etc. Chain Lightning hits 5 times in a chain, increasing the damage to each subsequent target by 10% up to 30%. Also, with each new target, the critical strike chance increases by 3%, which is important if our crit chance is less than 100%, which is exactly my case, but more on that later. 3 points into Elemental Dominance to increase damage when mana is above 50. Next, we put 5 points into Teleport with these supporting nodes. 5 is needed for maximum cooldown reduction. And because in the Season 10 mechanics, these points simply have nowhere else to go since we don't need Protection node. The first node gives us currently irrelevant movement speed, and the second gives a quite useful damage reduction. 3 points into Glass Cannon. Gives a multiplicative bonus to outgoing damage, but with a penalty in the form of the same multiplicative increase to incoming damage. Please note that the game always tells you whether a bonus or penalty is multiplicative or additive via an X in parentheses. Multiplicative is a multiplier, additive is a sum. This is very simplified, but this guide isn't about damage calculation. 1 point into Ice Blades with these enhancement nodes. This is a supporting skill. It applies chill effects to enemies, makes them vulnerable, and the skill is considered a summoning skill. This increases our bonus from Primordial Binding. 1 point into Lightning Spear with 1 enhancement node that doubles the number of spears. Lightning Spear itself makes enemies vulnerable, and just like the previous skill, it is a summoning skill. This also boosts our bonus from Primordial Binding. Furthermore, this skill hits often and is necessary for us to get any bonus from Lucky Hit, if such is needed in the build. And the last active skill in this category is Familiar. This skill is also supporting. It increases damage from all elements, including the lightning we need. As mentioned earlier, you can summon up to 6 of them, and this also boosts the passive node Primordial Binding. Now the Primordial Binding node itself. It significantly, and most importantly, multiplicatively, increases the damage of summoned creatures, movement speed, and mana regeneration. In this build, we only need the bonus to mana regeneration, but in general, this passive node is scaled through having 10 summoned creatures in almost all sorceress builds, meaning in the current build, 12% 10 times. Results is the 120% multiplicative bonus to mana generation. This means we have some value of mana per second. It is increased additively several times by other nodes and properties. For example, 100 mana per second increased additively by 50% 4 times. That would be 100 plus 54 times equals 300 mana per second, meaning each addition is half of the first value. And now, how a multiplicative multiplier works. Those same 4 times. It's 100 multiplied by 1.54 times equals 506.25 mana per second. This is multiplying the previous result by 1.5 each time, not the first value. The same goes for damage and for any other bonus or penalty. Next, Mana Shield. Reduces incoming damage by 30% when spending 100 mana. This bonus does not stack and is granted once every 5 seconds, regardless of whether you spent 100 mana or 500. The reduction will be 30% in both cases. Inner Flames increases damage by 18% while we are healthy. Healthy means 80% and above. Permafrost maxed out too. It multiplicatively increases damage for the fact of having any cold skill on the bar. We have 2 of them, Ice Blades and Frost Bolt. Hoarfrost gives us a bonus to damage against enemies under the effect of chill. The more stacking chill effects on an enemy, the better, because several chill stacks turn into freeze, and the bonus from the node doubles. Icy Touch boosts damage against vulnerable enemies. In this build, they are made vulnerable by Ice Blades and Lightning Spear. Elemental Synergies increases damage based on the principle of having skills of the required element on the bar. Evocation increases our overall skill cooldown reduction. Fiery Surge is a pass-through node with an additive value to mana regeneration. This buff is triggered by Fireball. Soulfire saves a bit of mana and, most importantly, boosts damage multiplicatively. Note that when we move using the mechanics of infinite teleport via evade, the game considers us standing still. The ultimate unstable currents works as follows. When it's active, which is 100% of the time, our shock skills, I emphasize, only shock skills from the categories Core, Conjuration, and Mastery trigger automatically when we use shock skills. Also, the supporting node increases the overall attack speed rating. Our Chain Lightning button is held down all the time. Therefore, we automatically get triggers from 3 shock skills from these 3 categories. This is our damaging Chain Lightning from core skills, Lightning Spear from the Conjuration category, and Ball Lightning from the Mastery category. How often the additional Chain Lightning triggers can be seen by the triggering of Ball Lightning or Lightning Spear. They are not on our bar, but they are very noticeable visually. Chain Lightning triggers automatically with the same frequency as these 2 skills. Yes, for skills triggered via the ultimate, they don't need to be on the bar. Next, the pass-through node Conduction, and we max out Convulsions. While we have crackling energy charges, we deal a ton of extra damage. In this build, we don't need a large number of charges, as only the fact of their presence is important. Therefore, what we get from the passive static discharge and from the aspect on the pants is enough. Remember I mentioned the usefulness of the frequently hitting Lightning Spear earlier? This is exactly that case. Lucky Hit generates crackling energy for us. We put 3 points into it, and we have 3 points from the tempered property on the boots. And the last of the skills, the key passive, Overflowing Energy. Here, the important thing for us is the fact of increasing lightning damage by 85% and the fact of cooldown reduction for shock skills when hitting enemies with a crackling energy. But more on that a bit later. Enchantments. The first slot is filled with Chain Lightning. It triggers automatically when we spend 77 mana. The base cast of Chain Lightning costs 164 mana. 164 due to nuances of gear and seasonal powers. This is the legendary aspect of Crown of Lucian and the seasonal power. Advanced techniques. Thus, each cast of Chain Lightning gives us 2 additional Chain Lightnings. These Chain Lightnings are full-fledged as they inherit all bonuses from the skill tree, paragon, and gear. The second slot is taken by Teleport. It replaces the default evade. In Season 10, Blizzard tried to do something with the Sorceress's infinite teleport, and as a result it now works incorrectly, in the sense that the classic cooldown value for teleport in the Enchantments panel should be 1.9 or 2 seconds. When playing, the Runewords plus Vex is activated. After that, all skills, including teleport, get plus 3 levels, and the cooldown time decreases to 1.7 seconds. 0.2 seconds is taken by the skill attack animation, leaving 1.5 seconds, which is consumed by the affix on the boots with any attack. And thus we get infinite teleport without delays. Now when Seer plus Vex is active, the number 1.9 does not change. Even if we put a Shaco and reduce the cooldown to 1.1, the dynamics do not change, meaning it works the same whether at 1.9 or 1.1 seconds cooldown. Luckily, it works the same at a decent speed and not the same super slow. Before Season 10, these numbers worked correctly, which proves, in my opinion, that they were tinkering with this mechanic and nothing worked out. Therefore, starting from Season 11, they decided to simply and unceremoniously kill this mechanic by adding a 5-second cooldown to teleport in the evade slot. And this cooldown cannot be reduced in any way. Such an elegant solution, I'm proud of the developers. To just take and destroy an entire class in the game, that's no small feat. It takes talent. The Sorceress, without this movement mechanic, loses its special class trait and becomes some kind of incomplete sorceress. Anyway, so, I stopped at the fact that even with a 1.9 cooldown, everything works norm. Whether because the developers broke something or because the new key passive reduces cooldowns, I don't know exactly. I only know that the cooldown numbers are now incorrect and it itself works in a slowed down mode. Like before Fast, everything starts working on some locations, and after taking the Artillery Shrine, which doesn't add any cooldown reduction at all. In short, the infinite teleport is crippled before its removal. Gear. Helm, Heir of Perdition. Here, all stats are important for us, except movement speed. GA, that's Greater Affix, is necessary for core skills, just like the maximum masterworking on it. A star in crit chance is desirable here, or in the Ring of Starless Skies, or in the offhand, because without a star in one of them, the maximum crit chance I have is 95.7 even with an elixir. These 5% are not critical, but it's desirable to have 100% crit chance. We can get it from a GA in the helm, ring, pants, or offhand. Got it? You don't need a GA on all pieces. You need the total to be 100% crit chance. Who gets which GAs is unknown. Next, chest armor, gloves, and pants can be any of these 3 slots on any place. That's how the Season 10 mechanics work. Axial Conduit. It's important to have the GA stat for Chain Lightning and also to hit all 3 masterworkings on it. The chance for Chain Lightning to strike twice we must have at 100%. This chance is on the chest armor and in the temperings on the weapon and offhand. It's the same story as with crit chance. You need the sum on these 3 items to be 100%. Where there's a GA, where there are 2 masterworkings, and where there's 1 or none at all. It doesn't matter. What matters is the sum from 3 items equal to or slightly above 100%. The legendary aspect on Axial Conduit is irrelevant, the balance is broken, and the damage from this aspect is tiny. What's important is the chance to strike twice, the rank of Chain Lightning, and resource generation rate. Damage reduction is secondary because this is not a push build, but a build for maximum speed farming. Some of my items are not fully upgraded because I still want to get these 3 seasonal chaos items stronger and then masterwork them to the maximum of the needed stats. Once again, Axial Conduit, Crown of Lucian, and Galvanic Azurite can swap places and occupy any slot from these 3. Chest armor, gloves, or pants. Crown of Lucian. The legendary aspect here is important for us. It increases our damage by 90% multiplicatively. At the same time, it also increases mana cost, which in the realities of Season 10, not for pushing the highest pits, is not important. On the crown, we need the GA stat for cooldown reduction, and all 3 masterworkings in it. Next, Galvanic Azurite. That rare item where all 4 stats are important and it's desirable to have all 4 with GA. But getting such a chaos item is very, very difficult. The maximum benefit we can get is from the GA in Convulsions, so we aim for that first, and all 3 masterworkings in it too. Here we have a mighty legendary aspect that increases our lightning damage by 72% and generates a bit more crackling energy for us. Boots must have the property, reduction of evade cooldown by 1.5 seconds with any attack. This is the foundation of our mobility. As mentioned above, the total cooldown reduction and specifically the teleport cooldown should be 1.9 seconds in the current realities in the enchantments. So, if your total cooldown reduction in the profile is 70% and there's no evade cooldown on Boots and Amulet, you won't get top mobility. There will still be those who didn't understand about the infinite teleport, and for them there's a video fully explaining this mechanic. On Boots, the GA on intelligence is important, and the other 2 stats can be of your choice. See what you're missing and roll for that. Armor, all resistances, dodge, or mana per second. Anything will do. The aspect of the Orange Herald will reset our ultimate cooldown, again thanks to that same lucky hit. Weapon. Here a wand is preferable due to the inherent property of damage to vulnerable enemies, but a sword is also possible, which always has inherent critical damage. It all depends on what GAs are on them. Needed in order of priority: intelligence, critical damage, all damage. Tempering into critical damage from shock skills and the chance for Chain Lightning to strike twice. About masterworking I explained above. The target is 100% Chain Lightning chance summed across 3 items. The aspect for 90% more damage works well because this is a very fast build. Enemies are always under control of shock and freeze, and against them, the chance to deal 90% additional damage is 50%. Offhand. Here we need intelligence, crit chance, and cooldown reduction. GA is desirable everywhere, but the general guidelines have already been mentioned for the entire build overall: 100% crit chance and 1.9 teleport cooldown in enchantments. Temperings and masterworking, exactly by analogy with the weapon. The aspect increases all damage to vulnerable enemies by 35%, and Ice Blades is just one way to make them vulnerable. Ring of Starless Skies boosts our damage through its mythical aspect. Here the GA on the stat for all core skills is primarily important, and we masterwork that to the maximum. If you're lucky to get more than 1 GA, then quite good properties are attack speed and crit chance. The second ring, Tal Rasha's ring. Here, the legendary aspect is primarily important. We get 20% multiplicative damage for each element applied in the last 8 seconds, total 60%. Priority on GA and 3 masterworkings in cooldown reduction. GA for non-physical damage is secondary. The other 2 stats are not important. Potent Warding will give resistances, which is not relevant on a fast farm build. And we have enough lucky hit chance thanks to the Helm and Crown of Lucion. Amulet. Here, we ideally need all 3 GAs. Let me remind you, GA is a greater affix, the star on a stat that increases its value. The first stat is intelligence. Then in order of priority, Glass Cannon gives 8% damage per point. Permafrost and Inner Flames give 6% damage per point. Inner Flames works with the health-reducing seasonal mana shield. Icy Touch and Elemental Dominance give 4% damage per point. If we use the runeword Igni plus Thule, then Hoarfrost works well, plus 8% damage per point. Igni plus Thule does not interfere with the aspect on the amulet, because here we are talking about an active defensive skill on the bar. We don't have one, and thanks to this aspect we have a bonus of 75% damage. Temperings into evade cooldown and shock critical damage. Masterworkings plus 3 should be put into the stat with the maximum damage benefit, and that stat should have a GA. The ideal setups are listed just above and shown in the planner. Attack speed and Chain Lightning skill breakpoints. The main cast shock skill is Chain Lightning. The more often we cast it while the ultimate is active, the more often we trigger other shock skills, including our damaging skill. The same Chain Lightning. There are scary formulas, but don't be afraid. No formulas are needed for mere mortals. Only the final table is needed. This table on the left shows us how many frames the game requires according to its own internal timer to display the Chain Lightning animation. This internal FPS has no relation to what's on your screen. Be it 30 or 240, it doesn't change anything. On the right is the required bonus to attack speed in your profile for real, not imaginary, attack speed increase. And in the middle, it shows how many real attacks per second you perform with such a bonus. We need breakpoints to understand whether it makes sense to increase the attack speed in the profile or not. For example, when you have 2 rings, one with a GA on attack speed and the other without it. I'll show you visually. Watch the attack speed bonus numbers. As soon as we speed up a little, our attack speed increases to 86.6 and sometimes drops to the high 70s. Meaning, when our attack speed bonus in the profile is 76, the hero performs, according to the breakpoint, 71.1 to 2.4 attacks per second. When under a buff, our attack speed bonus grows to 86.6. We hit 2.609 attacks per second. And the point here is that if our attack speed bonus is not 86.6, but say 94.3, nothing will change. We will still hit the same 2.609 attacks per second, according to the point at 85.9. And to actually increase the attack speed, we need to reach a value of 94.4 or higher. The values in the picture are for a one-handed weapon plus an offhand. For a two-handed weapon, the breakpoints will be different. Link to the website in the description. Gems in the weapon and offhand are placed for critical damage, in armor for intelligence, in jewelry at your choice, meaning whatever you're missing, resistances or armor, put that in. Runewords. Sir plus Vex is used mandatory and gives us +3 to all skills. To all active skills without exception. The second rune word can change depending on your situation. Nagu plus Ohm we use to always have +15% damage from the Barbarian's Cry. That's those very multiplicative 15%, meaning all your damage is taken, and if there is this bonus from the rune word, the damage is multiplied by 1.15. The second option is the combination Igni plus Thul. The rune word casts the defensive spell Frost Nova, freezing enemies. This gives a guaranteed bonus from the Hoar Frost node, plus guarantees applying vulnerability to enemies, plus gives you protection from mob attacks for the duration of their freeze. You can spec into this skill in the skill tree with enhancement nodes for mana generation. But in this endgame version of the Lightning Chain build, it's not required. If you still want to, you can take 3 points from the static discharge node. 3 points will remain on it from the boot tempering. Seasonal powers. The main power is Mana Shield. Makes your health nearly zero, but in return gives a huge increase to mana size and a powerful bonus to its regeneration. At the same time, all incoming damage is first taken by mana. The second power is Explosive Combinations. Increases all our damage for 5 seconds when casting a core skill. At the very beginning, I said that when entering a location, press Frost Bolt 3 times quickly, and then sometimes press it once, no less than once every 5 seconds. The third power is Power Siphon. Here we are given double damage at the cost of a completely painless reduction of the resource. The fourth power is Advanced Techniques. The level of our core skills increases damage multiplicatively by 20% for each level of these skills, and additively increases mana cost by 10% again for each level of the applied core skill. My Chain Lightning level is 29. That means the damage is increased by 29 multiplied by 20 equals 580% multiplicatively, meaning all damage is multiplied by 6.8. And the mana cost in the realities of Season 10 and the main power, Mana Shield, is not significant. I won't explain the Paragon in detail. The boards and glyphs themselves don't change, and therefore their setup is classic. Do everything according to the planner. And when you reach the end, put all additional points into intelligence. With High Paragon, get Dexterity to 510 to get that additional bonus. Dexterity also increases our crit chance. The Tactician glyph is not a mistake. We don't activate its second bonus, but other glyphs are weaker than it even considering this nuance. Mercenaries. Subo highlights enemies on the map for us and gives a noticeable damage bonus of 25% for 4 seconds on every 20-second interval. Variana increases our attack speed by 10% for 7 seconds on every 22-second interval. The mercenaries themselves cannot deal damage. They are only needed for buffs. Elixirs. For crit chance if we don't reach 100%. If we do, then for attack speed. Essences for plus 100 intelligence, plus 300 armor, and for resistances. That's all for the objectively fastest Sorceress Chain Lightning build for farming T4. I hope I didn't forget anything. Thanks for watching. Reminding you that my gear shown in this guide is not perfect. When I finish the gear, this build will run even faster. Check the planner. Everything is as it should be there. Bye.